Hello, citizens. Welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Football Talk with Terry Mandangle. That's me. I'm Terry. How are we doing today? I'm well. I hope you are too. Today we're going to be talking about tight ends. As always, we're going to be using the player prop tool from bettingpros.com. We're going to be using a consensus ranking of about 20 different sports books. I'll show you how we do it, but before we do, if you don't mind dropping a like on the video, hitting that subscribe button, it really helps out the channel. All right, let's get into it. Once again, we're going to be using the Betting Pros player prop tool. It's an amazing tool. You can sort by pretty much any game, any position, any player prop. It'll give you the odds. It gives you a consensus of like 20 different teams. So if you wanted to look at the Cowboys and Eagles tight end matchups and you wanted to look at their receiving yards, you would just do that. It would bring you up all of their receiving yards. If you click on the player profile, it will show you all of their props. It has receptions, it has anytime touchdowns. If you go down here, it'll show you all of the different sports books that we are getting that information from, and then it'll give you a consensus right here. It's a fantastic tool. All right, let's get into tight ends. All right, so the number one tight end on the board this week is going to be Brock Bowers from the Las Vegas Raiders. He is at New England this week. He is projected to get 65.9 receiving yards, 6.6 catches, and 0.3 for an anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 14.99 fantasy points. Number two on the board would be Trey McBride from Arizona. He's going to be at New Orleans. He's going to be projected for 62 receiving yards, 6.3 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdowns. Good for 14.3 fantasy points. If you go to the tier list here, you're going to see that those are the only two guys on the top tier with 14 plus points. Brock Bowers, number one. Trey McBride, number two. All right, so the next tier is going to be these two guys right here. It's going to be George Kittle and David Njoku. Number three is George Kittle. He's going to be projected for 60.7 receiving yards and 4.9 receptions. Anytime touchdown of 0.4. That's going to be good for 13.37 fantasy points. All right, number four on the list is going to be David Njoku, Cleveland tight end. He's going to be playing Cincinnati this week. That game could shoot out, so this could be a pretty good option. 13.08 fantasy points on 53.8 receiving yards, 5.3 receptions, and 0.4 for an anytime touchdown. As you can see, tier 2, 13 to 14 points. Kittle and Njoku, only two guys in that tier. The next tier is going to be these four from 10 to 12 points. Number 5, Travis Kelce, Kansas City tight end, at Los Angeles Chargers. They're really in Brazil. That's not in Los Angeles. He's projected for 44.9 receiving yards, 4.8 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 11.09 fantasy points. Number 6 on the list would be Mark Andrews, Baltimore tight end, at Buffalo. Projected for 43 receiving yards, 4 receptions, and 0.4 anytime touchdowns. That would get you 10.7 fantasy points. Number 7 on the list, TJ Hawkinson, Minnesota tight end, at Chicago this week. Projected for 45.1 receiving yards, 4.6 receptions, and 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 10.31 fantasy points. And Sam Laporta, Detroit Lions tight end, at Green Bay. Projected for 41.2 receiving yards, 4.1 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdown. Good for 10.02 fantasy points. If we can go here, we'll see the third tier is from 10 to 12 points. We got Travis Kelce, we got Mark Andrews, we got TJ Hawkinson, and we've got Sam Laporta. All right, the next tier is going to be the tier from 8 points to 9 points. It's going to go from Evan Ingram all the way down to Cade Otton, 9 to 16. Number 9 is going to be Evan Ingram in this tier. He is the Denver Broncos tight end. He is going to be playing Tennessee this week. Projected for 32.2 receiving yards, 4.3 receptions, 0.3 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 9.32 fantasy points. Number 10 would be Tyler Warren, Indianapolis Colts tight end, playing Miami this week. Projected for 34.4 receiving yards, 3.7 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdown. That would get you 8.94 fantasy points. Number 11 on the list would be Tucker Kraft, Green Bay tight end. They're going to be playing Detroit this week. Projected for 35.7 receiving yards, 3.4 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 8.77 fantasy points. Number 12 on the list would be Zach Ertz, Washington tight end, playing the Giants. Projected for 29 yards, 3.8 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 8.5 fantasy points. Number 13 is Dallas Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson. They're going to be at Philadelphia on Thursday night. Projected for 32.1 receiving yards, 4 catches, zero point 0.2 anytime touchdown, good for 8.41 fantasy points. Number 14 on the list is going to be Kyle Pitts, Atlanta tight end, playing Tampa Bay this week. He's going to be projected for 38.2 receiving yards, 3.2 receptions, and zero point 0.2 anytime touchdowns. That would get you 8.22 fantasy points. Number 15 on the list would be Philadelphia Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. He's going to be playing Dallas on Thursday. Projected for 35.5 receiving yards, 3.4 receptions, zero point 0.2 anytime touchdown, good for 8.15 fantasy points. And number 16, Tampa Bay tight end Cade Otton at Atlanta. Projected for 29.9 receiving yards, 3.3 receptions, and 0.3 anytime touchdowns, good for 8.09 fantasy points. All right, as you can see here, we are going to have the 8 to 10 range. That is going to be tight ends 9, Evan Ingram. Number 10, Tyler Warren. Number 11, Tucker Kraft. Number 12, Zach Ertz. Number 13, Jake Ferguson. Number 14, Kyle Pitts. Number 15, Dallas Goedert. Number 16, Cade Otton. Okay, and the final tier on the tight end list is going to be the fourth tier. It's going to be 17 through 26. We're going to start with number 17, Chigoziem Okonkwo, Tennessee tight end at Denver this week. Projected for 29.2 receiving yards, 3.5 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown, good for 7.62 fantasy points. Number 18 would be Brenton Strange, Jacksonville tight end versus Carolina this week. Projected for 29.3 receiving yards, 3.3 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown, good for 7.43 fantasy points. Number 19 would be New England Patriots tight end Hunter Henry. They're playing Las Vegas at home this week. Projected for 27.2 receiving yards, 2.9 receptions, 0.3 anytime touchdown, good for 7.42 fantasy points. Number 20 would be Dalton Kincaid, Buffalo tight end. They're playing Baltimore. Projected for 30.8 receiving yards, 2.9 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 7.18 fantasy points. Number 21 would be Colston Loveland, Chicago tight end. They're going to be playing Minnesota. He's projected for 26.2 receiving yards, 3 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would get you 6.82 fantasy points. Tied for 21, I guess. Number 22 on the list would be Dalton Schultz from Houston. They're at the LA Rams this week. He's projected for basically the exact same day as Colston Loveland. 26.2 receiving yards, 3 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 6.82 fantasy points as well. Number 23 on the list would be Pat Freiermuth, Pittsburgh tight end at New York Jets this week. He would be projected for 25.1 receiving yards, 3 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would be good for 6.71 fantasy points. Number 24, Mike Gesicki, Cincinnati tight end at Cleveland. Projected for 25.1 receiving yards, 2.9 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. Good for 6.61 fantasy points. Number 25, New York Giants tight end Theo Johnson at Washington. Projected for 25.3 receiving yards, 2.8 receptions, and 0.2 anytime touchdown would get you 6.53 fantasy points. Last on the list would be number 26, Jonnu Smith, Pittsburgh tight end at New York Jets. Projected for 23.6 receiving yards, 2.8 receptions, 0.2 anytime touchdown. That would get you 6.36 fantasy points. All right, as you can see here on the tier list, from 6 to 8 points, fourth tier we would have number 17, Chigoziem Okonkwo, number 18, Brenton Strange, number 19, Hunter Henry, number 20, Dalton Kincaid, number 21, Colston Loveland, number 22, Dalton Schultz, number 23, Pat Freiermuth, number 24, Mike Gesicki, number 25, Theo Johnson, number 26, Jonnu Smith. All right, and there's one more thing I wanted to show you, as always, the guys that are outperforming their draft ranking. If you see here, Chigoziem Okonkwo basically went undrafted in most drafts. He's ranked at tight end 17 this week. The difference is 9 spots from where he was being drafted, if he was drafted at all, because as you can see, he is available in 88.6 ESPN fantasy leagues. The next guy on the list would be Mark Andrews, but everybody kind of drafted him, I would imagine, so he probably is not available in any leagues. Next guy that you might be able to pick up if you're in a bind would be Zach Ertz. He would be projected to be the 17th tight end off the board in fantasy draft. He would be the 12th overall this week. He is still available in 59.5 of ESPN leagues. And then there's Cade Otton, who was ranked 21st overall in the preseason draft boards. He's going to be the 16th overall tight end this week. He's still available in 80% of the leagues. Not that those guys would be great plays, but if you're in a bind, that would probably be the best you can do. All right, that's going to do it for our tight end rankings for this week. Once again, if this video helped you at all, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting a different position group for, every week of the season. I'm going to have all the position groups at some point, hopefully before Thursday or Friday, depending on, when the games are that week. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!